Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the Sunset Safari. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie and I have Andrew on camera with me this afternoon, and out on the other vehicle, Wendy, is Scott along with Jean-Ray. We have Nikki and Jess in FC, and Eugene as always doing his thing and helping us out with all the technical matters that arise when you are providing a live safari. So everything that you see here and hear is happening right here on Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands, and for the first time this season I swear I'm hearing thunder, and that's one of my favorite parts about this whole season change. Don't stress, I think it's going to hold off for the time being. Don't think we're going to have to cut our sunset safari short, but a massive African thunderstorm is just what I've been looking forward to after this long dry season. Anyway, I'm not sure if you could spot what we were looking at down in the drainage line there, but there is in fact, as we were crossing over, a lioness just hiding right over there. I can't exactly do a U-turn on the damn wall, I have just spotted her, so let's go and see what she's been up to since we left her on the sunrise safari this morning. It is baking hot and it's got that amazing electric feel to it this afternoon. I can't describe it to you. You have to come and visit yourself to really get this impression of the build-up to a proper summer African thunderstorm. It is incredible. I'm going to try and sneak forward a little bit because there's another predator up in the tree. Not a spotted one, but a feathered one. There was a fish eagle right in front of me. There he goes. He goes into the distance there. I did hear it calling earlier while we were sitting on Static Live. Okay, let us see what we can do. There we can hear it calling off in the distance. How perfect is that? A lioness in the bushes, thunderstorm building on the horizon, and fish eagles calling in the trees. Definitely not a bad way to start. We're going to have to go all the way back on ourselves. I can't get down into that part of the drainage line from here. Just look at that sky that's building. Oh, it's so beautiful in the green. And when I say it's baking hot, it's 32 degrees centigrade. Which is 90 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's pretty warm down here. And to think that 2 days ago I was heading out on the sunset safari in my full-on 3 layers plus nice warm jacket, and today I'm in shorts and a shirt, and even went for a proper swim a little bit earlier. Just a quick point before we go to find that lioness. I've just spotted that fish eagle that was calling. Sorry, just to prove that there was one, I promise. Sitting in the tree there. Don't worry, the lioness is not going anywhere. She is as hot as the rest of us. Oh, there he is. And I think they're also feeling the build-up of electricity. There's that flash of white that's so typical of fish eagles. I can actually, now that I'm looking, I can see the other one. That's who it's squawking to, or it has been calling to, which is slightly off to the left and back. We're not going to be able to get the clearest view, but you can still hear it squawking. There it is, tucked behind the tree. Please bear with me a moment. I want to scoot forward and just have a look at it. I want to see if it's caught a fish or what's happening and what the reason is behind all of that vocalization that we've been hearing. And then we'll redirect ourselves in the direction of the lioness. There's also a juvenile that's been hanging around these two. It's probably their offspring from last year. I've only seen it once or twice though, and I'm not seeing it today. Oh, there's quite a good view of the lions. Never mind, hold on, stand by. Actually, it's quite good that I came this way, because we would seriously have struggled to get into that side of the drainage line. And she's looking very warm. You can see her panting away. Now the trick is to figure out, I just saw the second lioness move a little bit deeper into the drainage line, and the trick is to figure out how we loop our way down and into there. I'm just trying to work this out in my head. I have traversed this area before. It can be fairly tricky. I can still hear the fish eagles. I think that fish eagle is unsettled by the lioness. He came over and looked down on her and started calling. He's now heading back to the safety point of the dam. Now, I wasn't quite expecting to find the lioness on this side of the drainage line, and it's going to take some maneuvering on my part to find a way down and in there to show it to you, so that we can get a good look at these two Nkuhuma lionesses that we've been spending quite a bit of time with over the last 2 days. So for now, Scotty is in a drainage line, and I know that his signal's a little bit patchy at times, but let's see if we can see what he's seen at the end of the drainage line while I make my way into mine, and we will be back with you a little bit later.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into the Mulwati riverbed, the same river that Jamie's busy navigating her way into, and sounds like you guys have got off to a great start with her. Myself and Jean-Ray, to be completely honest, are seeking refuge from the heat in here and have been enjoying the cool breeze blowing over us in this little patch of shade. Take a quick look across to the dark clouds off to the west. It really does make for some beautiful, beautiful scenery. And listen carefully, every now and then you may hear some rumbling thunder. Caught in a heavy storm a little bit later, but that's all part of the adventure, and it will not be good for the safari, but it will be incredibly good for the ecosystem. So I'm entirely happy to shower this afternoon, and before that happens, I think we need to make the most of things and carry on down this beautiful drive through. Can you help me? Searching. I'm going to drive nice and slowly, and the great thing with these vehicles is that if you put them into low range, you can actually allow them to drive themselves, hands-free, and that way I can focus on chatting with you guys. If you do spot anything behind me, please feel free to shout. And to do that, you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or send an email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Well, we've come into this area in the hope that we came here to seek refuge from the heat, and hopefully a few animals will be doing the same thing. It's nice and cool and shady in these riverbeds, and hopefully it won't take us long to find you guys something to look at. As I've said that, the sun is slowly beginning to drift behind this first bank of thunderclouds, and I think Jean-Ray might be able to show you a glimpse of it. It's just disappearing off behind those clouds, so it looks like we won't need to be seeking refuge for too much longer. There we go, there it disappears. Great work, Jean-Ray. So shortly after we finish this route, we're going to be able to travel on without concerns for the heat, which is good news, and I'll probably be heading straight back towards where we last saw a young male leopard called Sept this morning. Oh, I did hear a few branches breaking up ahead here earlier, and I'm hoping we may find an elephant. I'm guessing that was the animal that was responsible for breaking those branches, or maybe it was the thunder that confused me. There seems to be quite a lot of elephants moving around through Djuma and Lionesses at the moment, which is great news. Because they aren't territorial, they move huge distances and have the ability to move hundreds of kilometers through the Greater Kruger National Park, which is great for them, but sometimes it means that they're not around for us. But at the moment, like I say, there are lots around, and I think I've just spotted the culprit, who we heard breaking the branches earlier. So let's stop here and see if we can work out if it's a bull or a cow, and whether it's alone. And Joe in Wales will be very happy that we've got off to this elephantastic start, as apparently it's Elephant Appreciation Day. It's also World Rhino Day. So interesting that these two large beasts have both got days appreciating how awesome they are on the same day. And we really do need to appreciate elephants for many reasons. I mean, their size alone is one of their great attributes. That is why a lot of people know about them. But even some of the things that we don't often think about, like their destructive feeding habits, are so useful for this ecosystem. Without elephants, a lot of animals would not be able to survive in various parts of Africa. The elephants make sure that a lot of the areas are kept open enough and don't become thick forested jungles. And it's busy doing that now, and it's what elephants do all day really. Whenever they're awake, they're eating just about. And thanks very much for that update, Joe. I wasn't aware that it was Elephant Appreciation Day. This to me looks like a young bull. It can be quite difficult to sex elephants, especially when they're forward, which is an important part of the anatomy when it comes to sexing them, is covered in thorny acacia branches. And this is the plant security system against the herbivores. Generally, any plant with large thorns and small leaves will be tasty. And the bigger leaves with less thorns are the less palatable ones. I've just spotted another elephant. I'm not sure, Jandre, if you can see it through that tiny little gap there. Up to the right. You might just be able to see the top of its head. A little bit more right. Unless you've got another one. There we go. There we can see another one moving through this thick vegetation. I wonder if it's not worth Jean panning up to the clouds now. It might be a little bit easier for him to show you the extent of how big they are now that the sun's disappeared behind them. Look at how awesome this is. And that is heading straight towards us. Some of it's already over us. And I think we may well get wet this afternoon, everyone. But like I said earlier, it's all part of the adventure, and it's going to be good to have you guys along for the first few droplets. if it doesn't in fact hit us, I mean, a lot of the time, and I remember the 3.5 years I've spent guiding in the Sabi Sands, you would think that the storm is just about to fall onto you, and it passes by only a couple of 100 meters and you remain bone dry. So even though it looks like we're in trouble, we should rather wait and see what happens, because like I said, a lot of the time they can pass by just a few 100 meters past you and you can remain bone dry. Just going to try and reposition ever so slightly. Let me take off my big hat now that the sun's disappeared. It's been a while since I've been using. Get ready for it again. We're going to send you to Jamie, if you can hear me, because I believe we've lost our picture.
A little bit further forward, so we... Oh wow, welcome back. Sorry, you caught me by surprise. We've just caught up with the lionesses, and the reason I want to scoot forward will become apparent in a moment. We shift here. Now I did go into the drainage line. She immediately popped out on the other side of the drainage line. Once I'd made my way all the way across, she arrived back up here. There's one female over here, very clearly. There's another female over there. But what you don't see is there's an entire herd of impala off to the right, and they have absolutely no idea that the lions are here. And at the moment they are completely distracted because the males are sort of involved in a kind of a false rut, and they've been chasing the females around. They're completely distracted to the presence of the lions. And just a little bit earlier they were running around, and the female on the furthest to the right immediately went into a crouched pose. Now although these lionesses they've eaten at least, lions are opportunists, and she's seriously thinking about grabbing one of these guys. You can see that they're about... Oh, she's going to lie down again. It's important to be patient in these kinds of things. They're about 50 meters away from her. Maybe even less for the closest one. He might even be about 40 meters away. And they are distracted. I wouldn't even be surprised if they were going to think about making their way down here towards the dam. The lions are right between them and where the dam is. There you can see a whole load of them crossing the road. It's a whole big breeding herd. Could be very, very interesting to see. Now although that one female is very much on alert, the other one is still lying down panting away. She hasn't quite caught on to this whole we're hunting thing. We're in hunting mode, and she's quite obviously visible, and I think one of the impalas might have spotted her, but he isn't quite sure what she is yet. He's peering quite intently in our direction. Oh, alarm call. I think he's just figured out it's a lion. Let's see what they do. There's one very foolish ram coming closer to investigate. Here he comes. He's going to run right past them. Oh, he's realized. One ram is onto them. He's barking off in the distance. He's barking away, he's onto them, he's gone. And the rest of them haven't quite worked out what it is he's shouting at. The second lioness is standing up now. She's making her way to join her sister, and I think she's going to give the game away. Oh, there's another alarm call. Yep. She's not as interested as her sister is in staying concealed. She's just walked right out into their eye line. Maybe not as hungry. or interested in a fresh kill, or expending any energy in that direction. She is just marching down the road. There you go, I can hear the sharp barks of impala alarm calls. Okay. Well, for a moment there it looked like the impala was going to run right in front of them. But there's absolutely no chance now, so it means I can switch on and reposition. And maybe you can get a bit of an idea as to distance. The impala are still standing there watching. And they do generally tend to do that. Once they have noticed a predator, then they stick around and they watch what the predator's doing. Because once they've been spotted, they know that they can outrun any lion. It's the element of surprise that the lionesses are going to be relying upon. My goodness me, ladies, are you heading back to the smelly buffalo carcass? They are going right in that direction, which surprises me actually. I thought they might be done. The impala have dashed off now into the bush. Off now into the bush. I got so distracted this afternoon at the start of the drive with all the comings and goings with the fish eagles and lions and all those other things that I forgot to mention that if you are a new viewer and you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make about what you are seeing, you can do so on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV, and we'd love to hear from you. Let's try and get a little bit ahead of these two. How cool is this? Walking side by side with lions, kind of. Although in a much safer vehicle position. And watching them look at the impala and sort of think about hunting them, we had a very funny comment from Susie Johnson. Oop, disappeared. And she wanted to know what these really rather well-fed lionesses were planning on doing and if they were going to roll after them. Well, Susie, that's a very good point. No, hold on. Let's just see what they have very much been spotted, but they've still got that still. Oh, there's more impala up in the road ahead. I didn't see those. They've heard all of the fuss, but they haven't quite worked out where the threat is coming from. There you go. You can see them just in the middle of your screen there. Those little dots. Much further away than the original herd of impala. And perhaps if we're lucky, Susie, we'll see them rolling after them down the road. Gone. And I wouldn't put it past them to have a go at hunting them, but they definitely don't have any kind of chance now. The cover has been well and truly blown. Now, I have a very strong suspicion that they're about to turn right at the jackalberry tree and then go across the drainage line and back up the other side and back to the buffalo carcass. But let's see if my suspicion is correct. And let's follow on. Here we go, turning right underneath the jackberry tree. I'm just going to stop for one moment. I do know where these lionesses are going, so I'm not going to panic too much about losing them. I just want to show you this incredible sky that's developing next to us. This was not what I expected to see. Just look at that. You can hear the thunder. The first storm of the season. It's coming. And there's rain over the horizon there, you can see it. The bottom of the screen. Uh-oh. This sort of approached faster than I expected to. Oh, fish, eagle and thunder, how magical. Oh, the sky is spectacular. Okay, I better get on after those lionesses before I've said that I think that I know where they're going and then they disappear on me. That would be terribly embarrassing. I think I better head in that direction. And while I do find those lionesses again, probably by that rather rank and slightly smelly buffalo kill, Scott has some elephants to show you, so I will be back with you a little bit later.
Ta-da! Well, Jean-Andre started off showing you this bank of clouds moving in, and isn't it a wonderful afternoon? We've managed to stay with this herd of elephants in the riverbed. The signal has been quite jumpy though, so apologies if the picture isn't great, but we couldn't resist getting you guys on board with us to try and enjoy these ellies. Some surprising excitement early on with those full-bellied Nkuhuma lioness. So very happy you guys got to see that action with the impala. It just goes to show how clever the prey species are in evading being caught. Oh wow, listen to its ear rubbing up against that branch, and I think it's going to continue to do so. Look at all the dust come off if it does. No. Couldn't resist snapping off one or two picks here, it's so close to us. And this is how close they are exactly, probably about 4 or 5 meters, isn't it wonderful? And they're completely relaxed with us. With elephants, like I said this morning, as long as you get ahead of them and allow them to feed towards you, usually it doesn't cause too much trouble. But let's get you a little bit closer in to see what else. Oh. You can often be fooled and think an elephant's charging. On the slightest of decline they tend to get a speed wobble. That's exactly what happened with this youngster. They are absolutely covered in mud. Okay there, Jean-Andre? Oh, good. And try and take a closer look if you don't mind or not. You okay? Jean-Andre's just getting some water. I think he may have swallowed a fly or a wasp or a bee, but he'll be back with us shortly. And when he does get back, you'll get to see this mud that I'm talking about, although there's a massive cow that's approaching us here. Hello, big girl. How are you? Isn't this wonderful? They're all around us, just meters away. Look at how close they are. This is too cool. And they're probably very excited with the prospects of more rain on the way. They'll probably have far better intuition into the weather patterns than we do. And the more rain they get, the easier life becomes for them. Listen to the thunder. Isn't this wonderful? Just going to try and reposition the vehicle ever so slightly so that we get the best opportunity to continue filming them. That was great, that was so close to us. Do for now. You can see the majority of the herd drifting back across the riverbed, and we don't spend as much time in here as we probably should. It's such incredible scenery, so apologies if it's been a while since we've taken you on a cruise through this dry riverbed. There's one more big cow that's making her way towards us here. Look at how awesome this is. I wonder which pathway she's going to decide to take. Interestingly enough, there were a few more elephants on the other side of the riverbed to where these ones are, in the direction the others are crossing to now. So it seems like quite a large herd. And I don't recognize any of these individuals. They've got some very impressive big cows amongst them. Let's hope this lady's friendly. Again, it's just a slight decline that might make it appear that she's charging down towards us. Morning. Let's see if she stops and gives us a head shake here. Hello. Look at how long her trunk is. Isn't this awesome? Okay. Even though she was probably a meter up from the side of the bank, her trunk could be extended all the way down to the ground. And I'm not sure what you guys think, but from this rear view, looks like she could possibly be pregnant. Early signs of pregnancy maybe. I don't know if you guys got that feeling as well. Now already, even though we are in the earliest stages of the summer, it's remarkable how thick the vegetation is becoming and how quickly even the largest of animals like elephants can disappear into this lush vegetation. There's almost this deathly silence now, the calm before the storm, I can't help but say. And I wonder what you guys think. Do you think it is going to storm this afternoon, or don't you? We'll show you one last look at these clouds. And listen to the thunder that keeps rolling towards us. Absolutely wonderful. I can almost taste the rain in my... I'm not sure if any of you ever get that. The kind of taste of rain. It's carry on now. As far as I'm aware, they've got no problem with thunder showers. Some of them may, I guess, associate loud claps of lightning and thunder with gunshots. It's important to remember that in a lot of parts of Africa, elephants are persecuted for their ivory. They're out here, they feel safe, and I don't think that they're going to feel anything other than pure joy, because they know what rain brings for them. It brings fresh green growth as well as lots of fresh water to drink. Well, I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm having so much fun in this riverbed. I think we should try and continue for as long as we can. The signal may get a bit jumpy, but it's good to test the signal strengths every now and then.
Well, welcome back, and we do apologise for the abrupt change, but there were a couple of issues with Scott's signal. But we are back once again, and I have been spared the embarrassment of thinking I was predicting where they were going, and they actually disappeared off in the opposite direction. They have indeed returned to the buffalo carcass that they've been feeding on from the last 2 days. I've spent a lot of time describing the scent this morning. Let me not elaborate too much further, except to say that a hot afternoon in the sun has done the scent wonders, and both Andrew and myself are quite grateful that this was the direction she chose to feed in, because coming into the carcass was quite the olfactory experience. We have our lionesses back once again. Now, I know that there has been a great deal of, I wouldn't say confusion, but maybe confusion is the right word. These are 2 Nkuhuma lionesses. There have been a lot of debate about whether or not the one young female is the female that we saw mating with the Birmingham boys. I think that it is. There are also reports of 3 lionesses with the Birmingham boys south of our boundaries, and one of them is mating. Bless you, girl. There's a fly go up your nose. One of them was mating with an Nkuhuma lioness, in theory. We know that Amber Eyes is missing, we know that one other adult female is missing, and we know that the sub-adult female is missing. So I think that those are the 3 that are south of our boundary with the Birmingham boys. That being said, I have not seen the sighting myself, nor have I seen pictures from it. So I'm passing on second-hand information for now. And I promise you that as soon as I have a chance to confirm it, I will. Oh! Yeah, something yucky there, which I'm not surprised by. She's going to go and join her sister, who's back in the open area, just across from the carcass. And I think she's going to go and flop down there. There we go. Down she goes. Gives us the perfect opportunity to move forward a little bit and see what these 2 are up to. Now, I've mentioned this morning and yesterday that neither of them have gone as flat as cats on a carcass tend to do, or as lions on a carcass tend to do. They've both been slightly restless, slightly unsettled. Sure. Look at that face. You need a bath, madam. Listen to the thunder. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's the first time we've heard thunder in months. It's so exciting. You found a footrest, girl. No, that wasn't very comfortable. Let's try again. Trying to find a comfortable way to rest her head on the cluster leaf. Oh, there we go. That might be better. No. I love the way that lions do that. They find just a comfortable place to rest their leg, and that's where it stays. Now as the thunder rolls in across the savannah, so to speak, Craig, welcome to the Sunset Safari. You were wondering if I could smell the rain. I have to be honest, no, not yet. Right now all I can smell is buffalo carcass, if I'm perfectly honest. A combination of buffalo carcass and lion scat. But I'm sure once it does hit, we will be smelling it very strongly, and there's nothing like the smell of African rain in the summertime. There's this, in the afternoon it gets baking hot, so the sand all gets really, really warm, and then this builds up this electrical feeling, and the minute that breaks, the minute that tension breaks, it's the most incredible feeling in the world, and one that I can't really describe, and it comes with the scent of damp earth and wet grass, and it's like everything comes alive again. It is one thing when I lived in the UK that I really, really missed, was a proper South African thunderstorm, complete with the smells. And it was my favourite thing. I've always, from as young as I can remember, I've rushed outside to go and stand in the first thunderstorm of summer. Well, now I don't have to rush outside, I'm here. I mentioned that I didn't think that these two lionesses were going to come back to the carcass. Well, I stand corrected. Obviously, they're quite happy to take what they can get at the moment. I wonder what the future holds for these two. At the moment they're quite content, or at least they're well fed and well watered and well rested. But it'll be interesting to see where this is all going. At least their access to water will get a little bit easier. Although, for lions, the wet season doesn't necessarily mean inevitable increase of prey, because in the dry season the animals are much more concentrated in water holes and around water holes. In the wet season they're a bit more spread out. There's a lot of groundwater, a lot of cover to hide them away, make life a little bit more difficult. But at least there'll be lots of babies that will be easy pickings. But I really hope that these two females have a slightly more peaceful few months ahead of them. Oh, it's exhausting work being a lion, isn't it? Eat, sleep, drink, repeat. And here, see the ear going furiously trying to get rid of those flies. And they definitely get worse every time we pay a visit to this carcass. Now, I would not be surprised. This carcass has had plenty of time to marinate in the sun and the digestive juices, and it's had plenty of time to acquire quite a ripe scent. And I would not be surprised at all if the lionesses are paid a visit by hyenas coming through tonight, if not in the late afternoon as well. And these two lionesses, they could hold off one or two hyena very easily, but not necessarily a group of 8 or 10 of them. Then they're going to start to find themselves challenged to keep that carcass safe, and that will make for some very interesting interactions. Just took a cursory glance. I mentioned earlier that this was a bit of a graveyard sitting. And Steve and Jenny, our viewers who are watching once again from France, you were wondering, oh, flopped down right in front of the car. She's just tucked herself down in front of the bonnet. I don't even think you'd be able to see her from there, Andrew. So Steve, you were wondering how come the scent of the carcass hasn't attracted hyena, and I suspect that they know it's here. They were calling this morning, maybe, I don't know, maybe about 1 kilometer away, if that, just a little bit in the sort of northwesterly direction of where we are. I think they know it's here. I think they've just been not wanting to chance it with very hungry lions. And often what hyena will do, unless they have the numbers, is they'll wait for the lions to eat a little bit of the carcass before challenging them, because hungry lions defend their kill incredibly aggressively, and I imagine that these females, even though they are well fed, might do the same, but maybe not to the same extent. And I'm almost certain that there's going to be hyenas round here tonight, even if just to give it a go. And there probably were last night as well. They probably came around to investigate and then decided that these two powerhouse ladies were probably not worth taking on in terms of trying to get at the kill. But I think it might happen tonight. Just a suspicion. Well, if they weren't aware of it this morning, they will definitely be by the end of the afternoon, because that smell is going to be radiating far and wide. And hyena's sense of smell, I believe that they can smell certain smells for up to 2 or 3 kilometers away, possibly even more. Oxpeckers flying about that I just heard. I wonder if they're going to. This morning we had the most incredible sighting. It's the first time I'd ever seen it. But an oxpecker landed on the buffalo carcass whilst the lioness was feeding on it, and she actually tried to jump on and catch the oxpecker to chase it off. And that's how possessive they can be over their kills, that even a tiny little oxpecker bird that's looking to pick ticks off the carcass is a worthy challenger for them. Let's see what she's looking at. There have been no vultures, and I'm sure many of you will have picked up on that. There's no vultures around the trees. There's only that one battalier here this morning. There we go. She's decided that under the front of the car's bonnet is probably a little bit of a warm place to be. Move back out into the open. And it's going to rain, I think, tonight. Not on the sunset safari. Just looking around at me, I don't think we're going to get caught out this time. But Pamela, welcome to the live safari. You were wondering if they're going to eat that carcass when it does get sopping wet. And yes, quite possibly they will. I don't think they're going to be terribly picky about it. I don't know though, I could stand corrected. I thought that they were going to leave the carcass now and move on. But they've obviously decided that this is too good an opportunity to waste. And for 2 females, they've got this buffalo kill all to themselves. They would definitely eat it if they had to. Hyena, on the other hand, seem to love their carcasses sopping wet, and very often will drag them into dams and hide them away there. And nobody really knows why they do this. It's quite interesting and quite a strange phenomenon. But if they don't eat the sopping wet carcass, if these lionesses don't eat it, then the hyenas definitely will. And to remark upon the noted absence of vultures, although there has been hyena activity, I don't think the vultures have figured out that this is here yet. And it's interesting to see how that happens, because the carcass, yes, it's tucked away in fairly thick bush, but then so was that carcass that the Nkuhuma lions had killed a couple of weeks ago, that the Birmingham boys chased them off. And that was really right tucked in that drainage line just off Vulture's Nest Road in the Mulwati there, really thickly covered with those big dense green guari bushes. And yet somehow there were, I don't know, Andrew, you were with me, there were about 60 vultures there. It was phenomenal. We tried to count, we lost count. There were loads of them. And yet the carcass that was on Guari Pan out in the open had hardly any a couple of weeks before that. So it is a matter of luck at times. It just takes one vulture to spot a kill, which brings along a whole load of other ones. And while these lions are resting and sleeping off and letting their metabolisms do the rest of the work to help get those full bellies working, we have got these glorious skies, but we're tucked away in the thick bush, and Scott has got a wonderful view lined up for you. So let's head across and see what he can show you and catch up with you a little bit later.
Take a look at how awesome this scenery is. It all looks quite peaceful until now. And then you start realizing that we are in the thick of things here. Jandre and I feel like storm chasers. We've been racing around trying to get you a great shot of these clouds rolling in, and this is when it starts really getting beautiful. Look at that contrast in colors. Absolutely awesome. I just want to stop for a few seconds and keep quiet, and so hopefully you can hear the thunder coming through. And whether these clouds provide us with any rain or not, it's hard to say, but we certainly will be getting a lot more rain in the coming months. And Charlotte and Port Elizabeth, a coastal town here in South Africa, would like to know if it's harder for us to find the animals in the summer months as opposed to the winter when it's a lot more dry and open. And yes, certainly, Charlotte, we've got a lot more complications in summer. Thick vegetation, often very hard roads. After rain, it doesn't take too long for this baking sun to create a hard layer of crust over the road, so following tracks then becomes difficult. On top of that, off-roading is another nightmare that we have to deal with, because a lot of the areas become too waterlogged for us to drive in without causing damage or basically just getting stuck. So winter is certainly an easier time of the year. Having said that though, we do somehow miraculously manage to find good sightings and lots of animals, and my main theory for that is that the animals like to stick to the roads a lot more than the thick bushy areas, as it's easier for them to move down them. So I think that's what makes things lucky for us. I just want to get into another position. I just saw a massive bolt of lightning, and I'm not concerned, but I'm excited to try and give Jandre an opportunity to show it to you. It was a massive bolt that spiderwebbed across the southern skies behind us. Please, can we get another one? I don't think I've ever managed to show you lightning before. If you can try and get a little bit further to the left, Jandre. I mean, it could happen anywhere. Let's see if we don't get another lightning bolt shooting. Jandre. Let's give it a few seconds here and see if we aren't fortunate enough to capture another bolt through the sky. Come on, please. And I'm told Barbara was just asking if there's a chance of showing her any lightning. So Barbara, we are doing our best here. And if we're just a bit patient, I'm confident we may get to see a bit more. It does appear though that the storm seems to be kind of dissipating and spreading. And I don't think we are going to get wet. A few minutes ago, if you had a different opinion to Jamie, who said that she only thinks we're going to get rain later on this evening, and at this stage I think she could well be right. Great example of how even though it may look like the storm is on top of you, it can pass by without unleashing any moisture onto you. And as the storm approaches, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering if any animals are preparing for the onslaught. I know Judy has just asked that question. And yes, Judy, there are quite a few different animals that will actually be great indicators for bad weather on the way. Harvester termites being one of them. You often see them highly active during the daytime around their little burrow, collecting twigs and various materials to probably bolster their food supplies for the coming bad weather, as well as also create a level of try and increase their protection and chances against flooding. But most of the mammals will carry on business as normal, and we must remember that a lot of animals don't really have anywhere to go. Even if you're under a bush in a heavy storm, you are going to get completely soaked. Will there be one more bolt of light? Oh, did we get it? I wasn't looking at the monitor screen, but I did see a bolt of lightning. So I think it might have been directly above us. Oh. And here you can hear the thunder rolling in a few seconds afterwards. Well, I could sit here all afternoon enjoying this wonderful scenery, but I think we are going to continue and see if we can find any sign of this young male leopard called Sindile. He did actually, shortly after the show, he crossed from Arathusa back into Djuma after some Manyala detected him. If any of you were watching the sunrise safari, you may have remembered he was kind of looking intently into the vegetation. We weren't sure what he had seen or heard, and it was some Manyala that were obviously feeding slowly towards him. They detected him, let out their loud dog-like bark, bah, 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 and he ran in the opposite direction. He thought, let me get out of here, this doesn't sound like fun, and he crossed Triple M, the boundary between Arathusa and Djuma, and we're going to now follow up and see if we can find any further sign of him. So while we head off we're going to send you back to Jamie, who is ready and waiting to receive you.
Well, welcome back, and as you can see, the weather is slowly descending upon us, and myself and Andrew did a very rapid moment of preparation by just pulling out a little bit of the corner of the car's raincoat, or rain jacket for the vehicle, in case of a torrential downpour. Here we go, there's a little bit of it sticking out here. That is our absolute emergency cover. You can see we've changed position a little bit. I'm now intimately acquainted with this silver cluster leaf on my right, but we found a nice position to have a look at this beautiful girl while she sleeps. And I have a question to pose to you all in terms of suggestions for our future plans for the afternoon. Would you guys like to stay and watch the lionesses, or would you like to go bumbling about, see what else we can follow up on, and then come back here a little bit later to see what hyena activity there is? And you just let me know on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV, and of course we will take your preferences into account when making our decision. I don't think these two ladies are going to go anywhere for the moment. I think they're going to stick around for a while. They've obviously decided that this is good food, and too good an opportunity to pass up. Here she goes again with that leg rest that I was mentioning. Amazing how they do that. I wonder why that's more comfortable. Oh, catching flies, or trying to. That was that sudden leg movement that you saw. They're obviously driving her mad. The tail going furiously to try and swat the flies. Oh. You can actually hear her whipping herself with it. You can hear the impact as it hits her. Must be fairly uncomfortable having enormously full bellies like that. Though of course that is what lions are designed to do. Shame. They're just driving her mad. She can't quite bring herself to ignore them. I know the feeling though. And we've got these giant paws up in the air from both of them. One back foot, one front foot. And Joyce, you were wondering which would be bigger, a lion paw or a giraffe hoof? And the answer is, unless it is an absolute baby giraffe and a massive male lion, for the most part it will be the giraffe hoof. They are much longer, and also if you think about it, they are considerably heavier animals. Even a small female giraffe that's a couple of 100 kilograms is triple or quad 4 times the weight of a lioness, so there is quite a considerable difference, and as a result their feet have to be a little bit bigger to carry that weight, but not monumentally. Now, looking for something I can give you as a sample size. You can see how absolutely enormous those paws are. And one thing I have noticed about the Nkuhuma... Hello, lightning. The sky is awake. is very much straight after the lightning flash. It is upon us. Luckily it seems to be something of a political thunderstorm. A lot of noise and lights flashing, but not much action in the way of rain. Anyway, to get back to Joyce's question, Andrew, if I can do a little bit of a size demonstration for Joyce. It's a bit rough and kind of tricky to do on the dashboard, but if I was to give you a comparison, Joyce, in terms of foot size, so a lion track is probably about that long for a female lion, maybe about that long for a male lion. And I have relatively tiny hands, just to give you a rough sample size. A giraffe track for a female is probably about that long, and for a male even longer, and actually quite wide, so about that width. So you could fit, maybe in a big male giraffe track, you could fit 2 female lion tracks in it, maybe. That's a sort of rough guide to a foot size comparison. Now if you were to look at leopard tracks, a female leopard track compared to a female lion track, we put it about sort of that size. Female leopard track is so much tinier, and just think of it in terms of their weight differences. So a lioness is somewhere in the region of 100 to 150 kilograms, and a small female leopard like Shadow and Karula, who are quite tiny females, they're probably somewhere in the region of 40 kilograms. And you can see that's tremendous size difference in terms of their feet structure. And our lionesses are still quite flat and quite happy, looking very well rested. I know that one project that we definitely wanted to get going was to make plaster of Paris casts of animals' tracks. It can be surprisingly difficult. You need to kind of get the soil type right and where you go, and it mustn't be too wet and it mustn't be too dry. But for questions like Joyce's, it would be absolutely awesome to have sample-sized tracks with us in the vehicle. So definitely something we're going to be working on in the next few weeks. So stay tuned, and then we can use them as tools to show you how the whole tracking size and difference works. Now, thank you all for your responses to my earlier question as to whether or not we should stay or go. Now, most of you are quite content for us to leave for the moment, and I do promise that, weather permitting, we will be back once again with these lionesses as it starts to get dark, which is when, of course, most of the action in the bush starts to happen. And while I make my way out of this particular sighting, and it is quite a tricky area, Scott has got some live buffalo as opposed to our one smelly dead one. Let's head across to him for now, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, what incredible scenes we're being treated to this afternoon. Absolutely wonderful. And not only is the clouds and scenery providing us with some great action, but so too are the animals. Tricky conditions for the cameraman, because to show you the clouds and then show you the animals requires a few tweaks on the camera, which you may have just noticed there. That is called an ND filter, I'm told. And I wonder if the buffalo that the Nkuhuma lioness were snacking on with you guys was from the same bachelor herd that we're viewing now. There's about 8 or 9 that I've seen, but they're all scattered out through this vegetation around us, making the most of all these fresh green grassy shoots poking up. It was quite interesting. We heard something scream a little bit earlier. It sounded like elephants, and the buffalo all stopped and lifted their heads, listened intently to try and work out exactly what it was. Listen to how awesome this thunder is. And usually where there's thunder, there's lightning. And Ruth in Costa Rica is interested to know if I've ever seen or come across any animals that have been struck by lightning. And no, I personally haven't, Ruth, but I have heard of stories of animals being struck by lightning. It's mainly the giraffe that get caught up, and that's because their long bodies obviously create perfect lightning conductors. So other than the giraffe, there's not too many other animals that I've heard of being struck, but I'm sure if us as humans can be struck from time to time, there's nothing stopping any of the mammals out here being caught up. These boys don't seem too concerned though, and I guess what can you do? There's not many places where they can go and seek refuge, as I said earlier, and the chances of them being struck, just like us as humans, are very slim. And with all the stormy weather, GJ in California. Oh, I'm feeling raindrops. Buffalo stopped there to listen. Sorry, GJ. The GJ was interested to know if we get any cyclones in South Africa, and no, we're very fortunate. We are not affected by cyclones or tornadoes in South Africa, although very occasionally there can be some cyclone activity off the coast of Mozambique, but it's nothing to the degree that you guys get in the States, so we're fortunate here. Very few earthquakes or cyclones or tornadoes. So natural disasters are not something we have to face very regularly, although flooding is probably our biggest natural disaster that can cause us a hard time out here. Let's hope these raindrops don't increase too much. I wonder how Jamie's doing over there. There's just a few intermittent spots hitting us. Now, James in Kansas City, you have asked a great question, and I should have touched on this earlier, so glad to have you on board with us this afternoon. James has asked whether we ever get any lightning-induced fires here in the Sabi Sands, and yes, we certainly do. It's one of the biggest causes of fire, and it's at this time of the year. Especially with storms like this. The storm hasn't provided us with much moisture, but there's been a lot of lightning in the air. And if we continue to get more lightning strikes with not too much moisture, there's so much dry fuel load around to fuel a fire that we could certainly get one, and they are natural and are necessary, but obviously they are incredibly scary to deal with. The fault fires rage here, and obviously with a lot of infrastructure in the area. I've been involved in some fierce firefights here in the Sabi Sands, most of which occurred at night, which make it that much more scary because you're often off on foot, leaving the vehicles in a safe position away from the fires, and then you run off with either fire beating mats, which is basically a very strong wooden pole with a splayed thick plastic mat on the end, which helps you to beat the fires out. That's the one technique you can use, or you can use backburns, which is essentially starting a fire that you try and get to grow slowly in towards the raging flames, and where they meet, the fire therefore dies because there's no more fuel load. But very often when putting in a backburn, it can jump across a road or a fire break, whatever you're using as your buffer, and then all you've done is added to the problem. So it's a complex and scary operation to be involved in, and one that we very may well be involved in the coming month or so. This is fire season right now. Look at this. This is quite interesting. Look at how thick the buffalo's neck is on the left compared to the one on the right. I mean, it's a massive difference. Let's hope they aren't positioned as well as they were earlier, and they were literally side by side. But even now you get an idea. The buffalo on the left is in far better shape than the one on the right. Maybe the one on the right's a lot older and losing muscle condition. Well, thank you so much to Yvonne for reminding me of a wonderful word called petrichor, which is the word that describes this earthy scent or smell as the first drops of rain hit the earth. And you might be able to hear those drops of rain pattering down onto the bonnet bow. Jandre is giving me a wobbling hand motion, meaning he's not too much sure how long we can withstand this for. I'm not sure what it's doing across where Jamie is. She's not too far from us. I'm guessing she's experiencing the same problem as we are. You might get the odd flash illuminating these buffalo. There was another flash of lightning now, and I'm very happy to hear that. I think Jamie and Andrew, oh, look at this. Hello, boy. Itchy neck. Hard to get to with those hooves. So lucky for you, this marula tree has fallen in the perfect place for you to. Oh, now he's found some tasty grass also under this marula tree, and this is an example of how elephants can provide very useful destruction. Okay, it's a little area of safety for vegetation to grow underneath. Obviously this buffalo is coming in and doing all that good, but if it wasn't for the elephant, this grass wouldn't be as lush and available to the buffalo as we can see now. You can actually see the buffaloes playing football with the elephant's dung there. Oh, perfect! Oh, and again, can't get enough of that bolus of elephant dung. Well, would you believe it? There's a ray of sunlight poking through. You can see it shining onto the buffalo now. This is such a welcome change after months of dry vegetation and clear blue skies. And Sue in Canada is loving the sound of the thunder, as I'm sure a lot of you are as well. And she is interested to know if I was scared or nervous driving down that dry riverbed for the chance of a freak flood, flash flood. And I don't think we have anything to worry about just yet in this area, and that's only because I have spent a summer here, Sue. If I wasn't familiar with this area, I'd be a lot more skeptical and cautious of driving through dry riverbeds. And I know the Sand River and Sabi River, which flow through our reserves, can often flash flood, and even if there's not a drop of rain here in the Sabi Sands, the rain in the surrounding areas can increase the river by meters in level, and therefore if you are on a property where you can traverse both north and south of either of the Sand or Sabi River, which is where I used to work. We could travel on both sides of the Sand River. You could sometimes get caught on the northern bank, even though there hasn't been a spot of rain here on the property. So it is something you have to be ready for. One of my friends had just arrived. We're just going to show you this beautiful scene here quickly. One of my friends had just arrived at the lodge where I worked in the southern Sabi Sands, and he almost got him and his guests washed down the Sand River. It was also in a brand new electric Land Rover, which couldn't handle the moisture. There's a computer under the seat, so he didn't get off to the best starts at that camp, but it is scary business. But this dry riverbed, so I don't think we have too much to worry about. Wonderful. Well, again, I am very, very happy to hear that my friend Matty, only 9 years old, is joining in on the safari, and he's a little bit concerned about our safety out here with all this thunder and lightning. But Matty, don't worry, we are safe here. We are in a low-lying area, and as long as you don't go under trees, that's one bit of advice that I can give you. If there's a lot of thunder and lightning wherever you are in the world, what we often think is to seek refuge under a tree, but that's actually probably the worst place to be, because tall things like trees are the things that get struck, and even though it strikes the tree, you can get caught in the crossfire from those lightning bolts. So just remember that, Maddie, and you don't have to worry about us. We are also on this vehicle with 4 big rubber tires, which should keep us safe. But good to know you're watching, and happy to know that you're worried about us, but you don't have to worry about anything. We should be fine, and we have to be out here to show you all this beautiful weather as well as all the animals. So don't worry about that. And the good news is, speaking of animals, we are going to send you back to Jamie, who has found some more animals for you to see. We're going to carry on and search for Sindile.
Welcome back. Sorry about that. We just closed the camera case because it started to drizzle, and it feels as though it's going to get a lot harder very quickly. But just have a look at what we've found. I know that you had some wonderful shots of the ellies in the drainage line with Scott, but I found my special young mother and her itsy bitsy tiny little calf, who's at the back there, still covered in fuzz and still rather ineffective with his trunk. Hey little one, don't hide, you can come out and say hello. Now for those of you who haven't been watching over the last few days, or might be joining us for the first time, we've been watching this little Ellie for quite a while, a couple of drives in a row, and he is absolutely adorable. He's only a couple of months old, still a little bit wobbly on his feet, and this is his mother. Now she looks very young to me, she's tiny. This is probably her first baby, and so far she's done an excellent job, although it does look like she's almost going to reverse into him. But a very special family group, this lot. Not sure where the rest of the herd is. I have been around. Oh, you can see that very heavy sky ahead of us. Hello, Baba. I'm peeking out from behind Mommy there. Oh. Look at this little one trying to fiddle around with his trunk. That's so cute. Little tiny perfect feet, and absolutely covered in fuzz. Very, very cute little bubba. But this little boy is going to grow up to 5, 6, maybe even 7 tons if he's a big male. And Isabella, who is 4 years old from Ohio, you would like to know how it is that elephants get so big when all they do is eat grass and, as you can see, sticks, or in this little baby's case, tries to. Now, Isabella, imagine if they didn't eat grass, what would they need to eat to keep that big size maintained? There's so much grass and there's so many twigs and sticks and branches out here that it's the perfect food for them. It means they can eat as much as they want. So one elephant can eat so much food in one day, and he doesn't have to go far to look for it. All around them is food for them to eat. So it's not like a lion that has to go out and hunt their prey. They don't have to go searching and stalking and expend energy to get it. So they don't have to use energy to get food. There's food all around them. And they can eat as much sticks and grass as they want, and they do. They eat a lot of food. Imagine if you had to eat all day, how big you would get. And that's how elephants do it. Eating constantly. Mom knows exactly what to go for. The little baby's just experimenting, or just started experimenting with solid food. And at the moment it's more an exploration of what his trunk can do more than anything else. And it's incredible to think that even at 6 months old, and baby elephant can start to eat solid food. Oh, bless you, little one. Hello, mommy. I really love this female just because she is so relaxed. Even with a young baby, she's so comfortable with our presence that she's quite happy to just come up right next to the car. Look at those beautiful eyes. And I will say that there is no other animal in the bush that looks at you like an elephant looks at you. Elephants will come up and look at you, and it's like they're really seeing you. They're looking at you as an individual and as a person. Did any of those leaves just hit you, Andrew? We're so close that those leaves that she just stripped and missed landed on Andrew. That's how cool it is. How amazing is that? Hello, little one. It's okay. It's okay. Just come say hello. Oops, wobble. Oops, wobble. It's okay, Mom. He just got a fright. He's fine. There you go. A little concerned rumble from Mommy. That was so cute. You could see that he didn't really know what to do there. Mommy had gone. Mommy was calm, but the baby wasn't quite sure how it felt about us. I think he decided we were a little bit scary, and so ran for the protection of Mom. But you could see immediately how she responded to that. She swung around. Oh, look, it's okay, little one. You're fine. You're safe. Shame. Oh, Mom's not that concerned. She's going to casually nudge him out of the way. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I think this is probably one of the cutest baby elephants I've ever seen. And I'm sure a lot of the regular Wild Earth viewers have seen a lot of them. I know that Mr. Wrinkly Bottom has earned quite the acclaim. Oh, look at that ears up attitude. Love it. That little baby definitely has a little kink in his tail. And I know the mother of one of the older calves that was in this herd when we last saw them, she also has a very kinky tail, just like this little one. Oh, he's going in to try and suckle. He's tucked away his tail. It's almost like he knew we were talking about it. Trying to get in there to grab a quick snack, but I don't think Mom's made it very easy for him. She's standing on a little bit of a slope. It's almost like he can't quite reach. I'm going to try again with some grass instead. too cute. I don't think I'm ever going to get enough of seeing this little baby. Tiny weeny little thing. Look at that sky that's passed over us. I'm sort of hoping it's not coming towards us, but it's got that distinctly ominous feeling like it might be. Luckily those few patterings of rain we had earlier, where we had to close the camera screen, luckily those have gone for now, but there is a distinctly ominous look as our eddies disappear off into the bush. We have a question that's come through all the way from Wales, and I hope you are enjoying your rugby victory. I hear the Welsh team performed very well. Now, the question from Joe in Wales is whether or not elephants have a division between the cheeks of their buttocks in the same way that, for example, we do, or maybe other primates do. And I must say that's a question I've never considered. I've never thought about elephants having individual buttocks cheeks, as it were. Let's try and scoot a little bit closer and investigate. My answer to that is they probably do, but not a clear division. So they have natural symmetry. And when you find where fetuses develop, they lay down, as far as I know, they start with that sort of basic spinal column and start to move outwards from there in a symmetrical direction. So there's always that midline join. All mammals have it. In fact, I cannot think of an animal that doesn't, not just mammals. So they do have a midline division, just like we all do, but it doesn't seem to create individual parted butt cheeks. There you go, Joe. I hope that kind of answers your question. It's not something I've ever thought about, but there you go. That's one of the joys of these live safaris, is you not only do you not know what you're going to find around the next corner, but you also don't know what question is going to be asked next, and it's one of my favorite things. Let's see a little bit if we can move forward. As we move forward a little bit, I'm trying to sneak forward so that we don't cause them any disturbance. We had a question about elephants, just along the same theme of elephants having divisions, so to speak.